to Beyond Yoga, the Body and Brain podcast.
This is Minjae.
And Soyoung.
I'm David Driscoll. Hello.
This is great.
It's great to see you again.
Yes, welcome. Today we're talking about something fairly important, life purpose.
Oh, I was like, donuts, cupcakes? I guess not.
Well, who knows where the conversation will go.
So what is my life purpose?
Is it?
But why are we talking about life purpose? It's a pretty heavy topic.
That is like $1 million question.
Yeah.
It's a big topic.
Yeah, what brings up this?
We're looking at, somebody said, if you look at the financial state and the poverty state and the starvation rates, like things are getting better.
Right.
Around the world, the vast majority of people are better off than they were 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's an increase in rates of depression, anxiety, drug addiction and overdose, and suicide.
Especially in the developed countries.
Especially in the developed countries.
Also, I hear loneliness is a really big issue these days.
Lonely, and there's a certain group of people who will say, "Oh, it's all in your head. Get over it." Okay, fair enough. Maybe we can just get over it. But for a lot of people, that's not the case.
That's very true.
It's not working.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we need to really seriously look at why this is happening, and if it's pointing at something that we all should be more aware of, that we could be doing better.
Right, I totally agree, and it's a very real issue about suicide and things like that. Like, I think pretty much everybody has had that kind of thought in their life at some point. Like, this is miserable, I can't take it anymore, I wish I were dead, or I want to die, or something like that.
It's a good thing that our brain and our body doesn't listen to us at those moments and immediately say, okay.
So most people have experienced at least one moment of that in their life, or somebody who has it, who has those feelings, even if they may not have expressed them.
Sure.
So there's a lot of people out there who have depression or loneliness or anxiety, or they're having suicidal thoughts, but they're like too ashamed or embarrassed, or they feel afraid or shy about sharing and being open about those things. And then when we're not able to help them, then they can do something that's irreversible.
So you guys are implying that the question of life purpose is somehow connected to the mental issues like depression or suicidal issues.
I would go so far to say that let's consider depression and any of those loneliness and all those things as universal. Let's not say that that's just some people. Let's say that that's all people. The only difference is how we react to it and what we do with it.
And how they control and how they manage the emotions.
Yeah. And what is it pointing at? So we're talking about life purpose. And so our basic premise, I guess, is that having a life purpose, connecting with it, and believing in it, can actually be a great way of dealing with loneliness, dealing with anxiety and depression, which all of us at some point face.
Then how is it connected? So let's say that you have a deep depression and you are depressed. Things happen. Things happen in our life. And then you feel very sad and you feel very lonely.
Right, and there's so many lists of things of what you should do when you're feeling depressed or lonely, like, reach out to somebody else, do volunteering, what have you. But most of the time, people who have very serious depression, like, the issue is, how can I be motivated enough to get off my butt, to get up from the couch or get out of bed and do those things?
It's a tricky thing, because the motivation itself is dampened by the depression.
Exactly. It's like this catch-22 vicious cycle.
Right. So what I like to think about is, if you are sick, if you're physically ill, then there's certain basic things that you have to do. You have to maybe rest. You have to find some medicine or change your diet. You have to get people to help you eat well, sleep well. You have to do all this stuff, right?
Right.
And if you don't do that, you're not going to get better.
Absolutely. Well put.
But with mental illness, a lot of times we think you don't need to do that stuff. You just got to feel better, think differently.
So there has to be a list of things that need to be taken care of when it's a mental issue.
All right.
So you guys are saying that when you have a mental issue, then you need life purpose to stand up and do something.
Right. But I would say to get there, it depends. If somebody's really sick, you can't teach them an exercise routine for their health. If they're really sick, you just got to get back to the point where they can start taking initiative. And I'd say the same thing is true if there's a serious depression. We just need to get back to a neutral point. So for that, what's really important, I think, is communication with other people.
So what do you mean by the neutral point?
I mean, the point where we can start to use our willpower again. At a certain point in depression and anxiety, there's no ability to use willpower.
Right.
Kind
and
of.
you have to find something in yourself where you're able to exercise your willpower and courage to do something.
And I think communicating with other people or taking some small actions is one of the best ways that even in that depressed state, you can start to make a change.
Yeah, once my roommate was suffering from depression slightly, and then I didn't know that it is contagious. So since that person is so depressed and didn't have any passion to move and everything, so I feel like I was trying to take care of him, but without my knowing it, I was like slowly depressed and losing passion for anything. So I was very, oh my God, I'm so shocked. So I need to get up and do something.
Yeah, because information is, affecting us. And often people feel like, I'm helping this person, they're having a hard time. They don't really notice. They think, but I'm happy. But actually, deep down, it does affect us.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you don't go and help that person, but it means we have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and I've even been like the depressed person before. Like I've experienced, in spite of despite my yoga practice and meditation and all those things, I still had like certain periods of time when I was just so tired and so depressed and I would just lay there and not move a muscle
and I think
not
fatigue
want to do anything.
Fatigue is a big part of that.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it happens when they are overworked, when they're exhausted.
The physical fatigue.
The physical fatigue, the emotional fatigue, working stress, the mind, all of it.
So our body and mind is connected.
It is connected. One of the first things, even watching this podcast, can be an act of healing because information is healing.
Exactly.
Right, information is such an important part.
So the willpower, everything is willpower. Even clicking on something and staying with this for a couple minutes takes willpower. Because maybe you could go eat something or you could go watch something completely trashy, whatever. But instead, this is probably better information.
Right.
That takes willpower.
Right, and just exercising enough effort, even just to listen, to open your heart, open your mind, and listen to what somebody is saying, that's actually something that, if that's something you're doing, you really need to give yourself credit.
Exactly. You need to give yourself credit and find the things that you can do. A lot of people have a hard time accepting, right now, I'm actually really weak. I can't go out and find my life purpose right now. But what I can do, talk with somebody who's going to, cheer me up, or they're going to give me a little kick in the ass, let's do better. And,
Are we allowed to say that?
yeah, why not? YouTube.
He will say beep.
Yeah, I can beep it out later. But the point is, find the little bit of willpower that you can exercise and start by just using that. Then later, you can do the big things like commit to your life purpose and change your whole life because of it.
Okay, so let's say you've been able to get yourself past that point and you're getting better, but then what? What do you do? How do you find your life purpose?
Yeah, so do you learn life purpose from the school?
Maybe some people do, and maybe a lot of people don't. I think we can say safely that it's not something that you can easily just learn. It doesn't mean that learning about things can't connect you to your life purpose, but it's not like something that someone else can just tell you.
Yeah, in general, I feel like it's more rare than not to see somebody who's found their calling, and where, you see people who say, I love this, I love what I do, and I'm getting paid for it. This is great. But that's pretty rare.
I agree. I think that's fairly rare. I think especially sustainably year after year.
So how about the life purpose thing? So let's say that you found your life purpose when you were a teenager. And then can you change it later?
Yes. And that's an interesting idea because I think a lot of people at some point when they're children or teenagers, they do connect with a life purpose.
They do have some passion for
They
something.
have passion and that endless, boundless creativity for things. But at a certain point, they may say, I have to do other things.
This is not it.
It's not practical,
Right.
or it's too hard, I'm not good enough at it, and then kind of give it up and then assess their purpose on other aspects later.
Right, and there's so many people who, everybody has their little kid question of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then, every child has I want to be a this or that or whatever.
What did you want to be?
I think I actually wanted to be a teacher.
Be a teacher.
I thought it would be fun to be in a classroom and hang out with kids and do stuff together.
I can picture you as a great teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always thought it'd be fun.
What did you want to teach?
I wanted to be an art teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So I think regardless of how that plays out, there's some energy there.
Right.
There's some purpose there.
And it wasn't even so much a matter of like, it didn't have to be art. I also considered being a math teacher or a Spanish teacher at some point.
Spanish, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like a long time ago.
A
So
linguist.
but really the thing that I loved was being able to share something with another human being where it's completely new to them, and it's that magic of seeing their like aha moment where they're
such a
like,
joy.
you explain something and they're like, oh, that awakening, the eureka moment.
And so I think that's one of the criteria for how you find your life purpose is you have to be aware of how your brain and your body react when you're on topic, how much energy comes out, and then assess that. Okay, there's something there.
But that means you also have to trust your brain and body to tell you.
Exactly. And there's a lot of different ways of being stimulated. Sometimes we're stimulated because everybody expects us to do something, and that can be thrilling and exciting and a lot of pressure, but over time it can kind of wear us out. Whereas what we're looking for is a more authentic, sustainable source of passion and energy.
And joy.
And some of that has to do with your health. You can be on topic with your life purpose, but because of your stress level, your focus, it may burn you out, even though it is a good thing. So part of it is being healthy.
Yeah.
And also I heard that the life purpose is affected a lot by the trend and fashion.
Really?
So, yeah. And so
this goes back to the question of can your life purpose change and develop and evolve? Which I think we can safely say yes.
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
Because I think it comes from an energy. It's not just one word or even one picture, but it is a kind of energy. Like you said, the awakening moment that people have. Maybe for you, that's closely connected with what the life purpose is. And that could happen in a few different places.
then how about you? What were your life purpose when you were younger?
When I was little, I think it was paleontologist.
You wanted to find
dig up dinosaur bones. I was one of the kids who loved dinosaurs.
Oh.
I don't know. What kid doesn't love dinosaurs? I still love dinosaurs.
Actually, that has something to do with your major in the college.
It
right?
does. My major in college was anthropology and human evolution.
Wow.
So there was, and in college, the reason I chose that, because I was definitely interested in other things, there was a spark, there was something that just like energy came when I went to that class. And it was the one class where I would like study extra. I'd go in for office hours and talk with the professor. And honestly, when you do that, everybody else knows that you're on topic. So my professor was like,
wow.
Here, try this. And then how about this opportunity? Because he could see that energy. So very much it was connected.
Maybe you were affected by the movies or Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones.
It was before Jurassic Park, not giving away my age too much, but this childhood was definitely, the passion was before Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I was thinking Indiana Jones, but I was trying
But
to
I mean,
say-
even
Oh,
so,
thank you.
like if you think about it, every kid learns about dinosaurs in school, right? So every kid learns about dinosaurs, but there had to be something about the dinosaurs or about the digging up dinosaur bones that was like magical.
There
too.
was. I just listened to a podcast about dinosaurs and about how kids know so much about dinosaurs.
Really?
And actually what it was is that the recent history of paleontology is filled with new discoveries in the past 10 years so that those of us who are a little older wouldn't even recognize the things that kids know these days.
Oh.
Because they've discovered like 80% of what they know about dinosaurs was discovered in the last 10 years.
What?
That comparatively they knew very little.
Wow.
Anyway, this is not a dinosaur podcast.
No, I was just trying to get to like, what is it about the dinosaurs?
But I could
that
feel
was-
passion from
Right.
you talking about dinosaurs.
Like, it could have
more
been
than
a
anything
calling.
else.
It could have been a calling for you.
I gotta reassess. Maybe I gotta go back to school.
Yeah, you should
No,
be
but
considered.
what I found with anthropology, the same thing I found was the passion for the story of why we are here.
There you go.
why we are here.
And
Right.
the story of it somehow, as human evolution, the study of that is actually a storytelling study.
Then maybe you were interested about human evolution or history of human
kind of like where we come from.
Exactly. It's about like where did we come
The
from?
origin.
Like
Which ultimately is
how
also
did I come to exist now?
which is also related to why we are here.
right.
why we are here.
And there's also something. Well, I'm really going into
Why?
a lot of
Very spiritual. From dinosaur to spiritual.
My other passion was like animals and nature.
Wow, you have lots of passion. I know that you have passion for dancing.
Yeah, but I would say as a
but all
child,
of these
animals and
things are
nature.
connected.
So the human evolution, it's really like why we are here on Earth and where we come from.
It's about like knowing our world and like how does everything relate to us and our
So
existence.
it's something very connected to the Earth.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, I can say that very clearly. And now, with brain education and body and brain, there is a reason why I'm teaching this, which is still connected to that why we are here and what we're doing on Earth and this planet and nature. So for me, that's actually, I've thought of that many times. Teaching yoga and Tai Chi and meditation might not be the things that I'm passionate about, but the way that it relates to what we're doing on Earth, that is what I'm passionate about.
Then how did you know that is your passion?
I think for me, I always had a sense of when I had energy.
Oh.
Because I was a very physical person, a lot of sports, and then later with dance and things, I always knew when I had energy and when I didn't. So at least I was sensitive to that.
Right. So you can, when you're doing the thing that you love, then you don't notice the time passing. You just don't get tired. You can keep going forever, and it's so great.
For some of us, when you're not doing the thing you love, time drags on and you're miserable. And so it's very clear when you're just connected with your passion and life purpose.
Right. So if you're like depressed and miserable and, you don't want to live, then that means that's why you're not good. I mean, that's saying like you're not connected with your life purpose.
Or it means you need a little bit more endurance and tolerance. But I think ultimately, tolerance and endurance are not the way to get through life. If you're not able to dig deeper and find your passion, it doesn't matter how strong you are, eventually you're going to have a lot of problems living that way and working that way.
Then, for example, let's say that if I don't have a passion and I am depressed, then I don't have any motivation to find my purpose. Then what should I do?
At that point, I don't know how to say this otherwise, but it's really healing. It's about healing. It's
Healing.
not about really like flying yet. It's like you're an athlete and you had a big injury. You're not able to get back to practicing the sport until you've done the basic healing.
So usually either there's some tension or some blockage that you're holding on to and not letting go of.
It may have built up a lot of stress and emotion and pain over time that you have to work on first.
Right. So it's you either need releasing of some blockage or toxin or something, or you just need to accumulate energy.
So either
You
it is
rest.
physical or mental or spiritual. You need to heal first.
You need to heal. It's like an athlete. You need to heal, and then little by little, we just had a great story with one of our internship participants who had a lot of healing from an accident.
You mean body and brain internship?
Yeah, he had a very serious accident.
Like a car accident?
Yeah, I won't get into the details
okay.
here. Hopefully that video will be out soon. But his process at first was just the basic healing, and then he could start using his will and challenging himself and going deeper. And at this point, he's done some really amazing things and made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
So then that'll take trust.
That's the key point for healing. It's the willingness and also the humility to say, I'm honest about where I'm at.
Acceptance.
Yeah,
acceptance.
exactly. Sometimes you just have to accept. You
And
just
with the
need
mental,
to accept yourself.
the emotional and mental part can be hard because our pride often is much stronger there. If you have a physical injury or illness, sometimes you can't deny it. I just need to heal. But there's this resistance, like, no, I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious.
Right. How can I become depressed?
I'm a smart person and I'm a talented person. How can I be in that?
Right.
But it does happen.
So they want to totally disconnect.
And if we don't accept, we don't do the right things to actually heal.
So then how do I accept, like, oh, I am hitting the rock bottom?
That's a good question. How do you accept?
That you've hit rock bottom.
Well, I wouldn't even make it as dramatic as that, but how do you accept that you need healing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever?
Actually,
I think it might have to do with the willingness to just cut yourself a break. And for every person, it's
Right.
different.
That's a moment that I had where I think for the first time, I really consciously cut myself a break, maybe like 12, 13 years ago. I said to myself, wow, you're not happy right now. Like you have a lot of stress. Sorry, it's so hard. And I kind of actually said that to myself, whereas in the past I'd be like, get over it. Come on.
Right.
That's not you. You can't be like that.
Yes.
So that was a big turning point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's, I understand you're going through a hard time right now, but you got to give yourself credit for how far you've come and just let yourself have a breather. And when you're ready,
And accept that you're not feeling well.
Exactly.
But when you have hard time, it takes lots of courage to ask for help.
It takes so much courage. And it's just like, that's not the time when I have courage. So how am I going to have the courage to
Right.
accept?
Yes.
And that's why I say good routines, create support systems. At that point, being a little intellectual about it is helpful.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to force yourself to do the thing that you know is good for you, even if you don't feel like
You
it.
absolutely don't feel like it.
Right.
But you do it anyway. And it's going to be a mess. You're going to feel awful. Like if it's going out and meeting new people and you hate that, you're going to feel bad. But afterwards, maybe there's some benefit. You got to try stuff.
Right. And when I actually started my energy training when I was in high school, and I just remember it was like my junior year, there's so much going on, like AP classes, SATs, applying to college. I was so stressed all the time. And then I was like, I want to do energy training. So sometimes I was so tired and I would drag myself to every class and I would
From the start, she wanted to do energy training.
Energy training?
Wow.
And then I would suffer through the class. I even just sitting during class was like, I felt pain in my hip joints and my back, and I'm just like, I'm young, I shouldn't be having these issues. And the instructor was like doing great, of course. And but then after the class, I felt so energized. I felt so much better, and then I knew this really works.
So what do you mean by energy training? You're not talking about the electricity saving class, right?
No, I like body and brain yoga classes. It was basically the exact same thing we did.
When you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you kind of find it, you
That's
find,
great.
like, and it's funny because sometimes in the moments when you're confused, when you don't have a clear rational choice, that's sometimes when your intuition or your heart makes a choice.
Yeah.
If we're too certain, like, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this, we don't actually feel for a more subtle answer. And usually from the heart, it is a more subtle kind of direction that we want to go in and find things out.
And I think that's why life purpose is so important.
Right.
Right? So when you have life purpose so clear, then, temporarily you can be depressed and you can be lethargic and anything. But when you have the life purpose very clear, deep inside of your heart, then eventually you will have power to get up.
And that deep inside of your heart is kind of a figure of speech, but it's also actually a very important part of life purpose. How deep is it?
How deep is it?
Because the real power
2
of
inches.
life purpose. What if I'm a bigger person?
Then
3,
4
4?
inches. Yeah.
Okay. So deep in the heart, that purpose, is it deeper than the emotions? If it's deeper than the emotions, then I can hold on to it when the emotions are going back and forth, and I can hold on to it and move forward. But if the purpose is not deeper than the emotions, which superficial purpose, then the emotions will move it, which means I don't have power to keep going when things are tough.
So deeper than depression, deeper than my anger,
Yeah.
deeper than my wound.
Exactly. How is my purpose that deep? How do I know if it's that deep? And how do I find it? And then how do I use it once I've found it?
Wow. So
Those are some really great questions.
how to find it is one is
How to find it? How to know if I found the right one?
and then how
How to take action with it?
and then how to make it deep.
And how to make it deeper.
But I feel like if you found your life purpose and it is the right one, then I feel like it shouldn't be so hard to take action on it if you're really feeling it deeply.
I think at certain moments that's exactly right. And it just moves you forward. In my experience, there's a lot of moments when that's not necessarily going to flow. And it takes choosing. So for me, I think it's fair to say it takes choosing it out of trust. And that's why I say every time I do like a meditation retreat or a teaching workshop or something like that, the thing that I take away from it is trust. Trust your life purpose, Trust that if you keep choosing, it's going to get stronger. Like, just trust, because everything else comes and goes.
I totally agree. And honestly, that element of choosing is so important. Like, you hear about it all the time with relationships or marriage. A lot of people are like, you know, when they're telling you what's up and they're saying marriage is not, you don't just get married and that's it, you're done.
I've heard that so many times.
Right. You hear people always say,
work.
It's work and you have to choose it again and again and again.
You choose again and again.
In every moment. And that's true for anything in life.
And yet, a lot of the time, what we do is we wait for some feeling to tell us whether to choose again or not. And we say, oh, but then, you know, I stopped feeling like it. Well, of course you're going to stop feeling like it. And if you let that stay there, you're never going to get back to the feeling of yes.
So how do you know that what you're choosing is the right thing?
And that's the question. Ultimately, does knowing it come from the intellect or from somewhere else?
The uncertainty.
Always
people want to be certain for lots of things.
Right.
But the future, who knows?
So if we're really honest,
my choice.
There's
is
no
it right or
certainty.
wrong? Who knows?
And that's the honest truth. Even when you know your life purpose, there's still uncertainty.
Right. Nobody ever knows what's going to happen like an hour later, 5 minutes later.
Or even how you're going to feel.
Yeah.
If you've got your life purpose, you got to, at some moment, and this is what I think a lot of people do, is life puts them in a corner where they have no other choice. They have to choose what is going to happen next, whether it succeeds or not. And often that's why the people who went through the hardest times and came out of it are the ones with the strongest life purpose.
Right.
Because they realized it's just a choice.
Right. And then they feel that, oh, I have no other choice.
Sometimes the best moment is when I have no other choice, because then I can focus. And just do
Very
what
clear.
needs to be done.
Yeah. But there are lots of people who are waiting for the certainty to come to them.
Which is kind of a luxury, which might explain why in our modern world where we have enough to eat, where we're not life and death, we're lucky enough in many places not to be at war, we have too many options.
Yeah. So my father's generation and grandfather's generation, they experienced Korean War. And then even after that, there were lots of famine and they were so poor. So they have less, they can afford that kind of luxury. So they just worked hard for the family.
Right. And it's not to say that having more and being safe and being fed is a bad thing. But what it means is our choosing power, our desperate mind doesn't get engaged as regularly.
And now we have more responsibility.
We have a responsibility to do that intentionally, whereas before, it's like exercise. In the old days, hunter-gatherers, you'd be out there, you have to move all day. We don't have to do that. It means you've got to be responsible for exercising.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. So how do you find your life purpose?
It's the same thing. We need to take the responsibility as a human being.
Yeah. And one thing is try things out. Or just choose something.
Do something. Just start somewhere.
Trust that you are intelligent enough to have some good choices in front of you. My life purpose could be to help the sick. My life purpose could be to balance out inequality or save the planet. If it's one of those things you feel kind of good about, try. Give it a big 100% effort for a while. And then what happens later? Maybe you change to a new purpose, but you know how to take action.
So that means that your will comes first. And then means will follow.
Exactly. It's like an athlete. It's like a pro athlete who's gotten really good at exercising. Their body is strong. They know how to exercise. And then later they switch sports.
Oh.
They can do that. There's going to be a learning adjustment period. But because they've learned how to have a strong body, they can do it at a high level. Whereas somebody who's just starting, it might take them forever to get there, but they've already exercised that muscle.
Yeah, and I met a teenager in Korea. You know, there is a Benjamin school. So it's a kind of alternative school based on education. So he was a teenager, and then his dream was to become a cartoonist.
Ah, cartoonist, yeah.
But of course, his father and mother did not like it.
Why
are you doodling all the time?
Well, why not? Oh, I realize why. Is there a lot of money in cartoonists? The profession?
Yeah. So some successful ones, like lots of
just
money,
a few, right?
But many people. So, but because his purpose was rejected, he was more obsession about the cartoonist. So he didn't focus on the study and keep doodling.
So it actually made him more focused.
So in his case, it actually helped him.
Right. But But after he was allowed for choice, his action. So he got mentoring from the professional cartoonist. And then later, a few months later, he found out that, oh, this is not my path.
Wow.
Cartooning was so much harder than I thought. And it was not fun. So after that, a few months later, he changed his mind to study Korean traditional music.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that you'd have to have a passion for to decide to get into.
Right. So try out. And
So
then, yeah.
Because that you have to go through that stage of really giving it your all and exercising your will in order to see something clearly and make the next choice.
Yeah. But I would say that takes trust.
Yeah.
Without trusting yourself deeply, then you will hesitate trying new things.
Well, also, it makes me think that as a parent, if you are raising a child who has this passion which you feel like is not practical, sometimes the most counterproductive thing is to say like, no, don't do that. Because then they get obsessed with it out of like resistance, attachment. And if you let it run its course, naturally the next thing comes.
That also takes lots of trust.
And as a parent, it takes lots of trust.
Yeah.
So for me, myself, and for the people I care about also, you got to trust that they're going to find something.
Yeah, but children, when they get trust from their close people like parents, then they will have lots of love. That is a good study.
And they'll have that. They'll believe in themselves more. There's a certain confidence that comes from kids where when their parents just trust them and let them do things.
And I would go as far as to say that the mind and the nervous system work differently with someone who has been raised and given a lot of love and trust than in someone who has always been questioned whether or not they're doing the right thing.
Lots of doubt.
And it's not good enough. That the brain actually works differently.
Probably. I mean, I don't have any kids myself, so like, I can't really speak from the perspective of a parent who has to choose, like, oh, I see my kid who only likes to do this thing, and for whatever reason I disapprove, and
It could be hard.
now I have to do right.
It could
I
be
can only
incredibly
imagine.
scary.
It's got to be really hard for a parent to look at their kid doing something they feel is useless and be like, it's okay, let him do their thing.
And that's why our culture, our family tradition, like we have to help each other.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do for any one person. So I think we've gotten to the idea that first thing is you got to be healthy. You got to heal if you've been through something tough. And the second thing is trust yourself and choose something.
And try out.
And take action. Trust yourself enough to choose it and take action. And then...
So basically start somewhere and you won't know until you try.
You won't know until you try. And then be somewhat flexible. Be open to a new possibility and to a deeper possibility that is the next step or maybe a deeper step in your life purpose.
Do you have any experience of was there a clear defining moment of when you felt that you found your life purpose? Or is it something that just kind of like it grew over time? What was this experience like for you? Do you feel like you have your life purpose and your calling? What do you think?
So when I was little, I felt my calling.
Really?
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6, like 10, 15, like how little?
When I was a middle school student.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like 10 years ago.
15?
Yes, something like that.
How did you know? What kind of things told you that this was big?
I felt it. I somehow felt it. And I really want to become a pastor in Catholic.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I want altar boy. So I really want to become a pastor.
I can picture you,
Yeah. But a couple years later, I changed my mind.
Okay.
Because I thought, oh my God, living the whole life without having a relationship, without getting married, that is crazy.
I think it's not uncommon.
So I changed it in my high school.
So, but that purpose, whatever the pure interest and excitement about it, it was still there.
Right.
And it is still there.
Right. There was
Some part
probably
of it.
something about being a pastor that appealed to you and felt magical. There had to be something compelling about being a pastor aside from like
Being celibate.
Right, before you had to change your mind because of that.
Aside from being celibate, there was something exciting about being a pastor.
Yeah.
You wanted to help people.
Help people.
Yeah.
Because I saw that lots of people were getting helped. Like my
So you had a
family
good
members.
pastor.
Right.
Deliver some spirit, deliver some compassion.
Lots of stability because when you have stability from the spirituality, then I saw that lots of things were so settled and other problems become so small.
So basically, like as a pastor, he gave peace and comfort and helped solve problems.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to help other people solve their problems.
Yeah. So hopefully there's that feel. You have to give yourself the opportunity to feel something deeply.
Right.
And if that means not distracting yourself, kind of testing your limits. I used to do that in college. I used to test my limits. I would stay up all night. I would like intentionally not sleep and not eat for 24 hours just to see how I handled it.
And how did you handle it? This is so interesting.
It was good. It was a challenge, and at that time it was like a exciting new thing, and I would get somebody else to do it with me and practice for 24 hours.
And you got people to do this with you?
Yeah.
How many people?
Over like 4 or 5 people over the course of a few months. We do that every once in a while. And often it was in response to like, I'm getting into a routine where I'm not taking care of myself. I'm just going to the dining hall and eating, or I'm just working and playing and not
What did you
really
do?
connecting.
Dancing?
No, I would just like at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would just like maybe we'd watch a movie, but we'd just like kind
You
of
hang out?
just like hang out and do something and not fall asleep and not eat anything for 24 hours and just do that.
That's a very ascetic training.
Well, yeah, and that was the kind of thing. But for me, that was something that I naturally gravitated towards when I felt like I was losing touch with myself.
So basically, you would test your limits.
Test the
out
limits.
of curiosity to see what you could do, and also to reconnect with yourself.
Out of curiosity, but also almost out of this feeling that I need to get back in touch. Like there was some anxiety that came when I felt myself kind of getting out of touch. And I used to do things like go for very long walks or hikes.
Very, like 10 miles, 20 miles?
Yeah, like 40 or 50 miles. And,
Oh.
like once in a while, I would just do that because I felt like the mind, the emotions were distracting me too much from being in my body. So little things like that for me were a natural thing. And I think everybody has a different kind of thing that will tell them it's time to get back in touch.
Yeah, something tells me you were probably a monk in a past life. That's probably not the first inclination for most people.
Maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, there was there's a basic connection that's necessary to be able to feel the moment when you do find something. And that's again why it's important to be healthy.
Right.
And connect.
So physical health is the foundation.
I think we have to respect the body in order to find life purpose.
Great.
And then my last question would be, how do you utilize your life purpose and know that you're growing and know that you're getting stronger with it? What do you do? What do you look for? How do you practice?
I think that when your life purpose is very clear, then you will naturally have to take action.
So it's got to be something that makes you take action.
Right. Because
at that point,
if your life purpose is very clear, then you will have lots of passion.
Mm-hmm.
Then
you don't want to sit still.
Right.
You don't want to wait.
It becomes a source of your drive.
Right. Then
the thoughts in your head are not attractive. It's like, yeah, I got to do it.
Right. Yes. Very simple. So when your life is very clear, the more clear your life purpose is, then the more simple your life will become.
The more action-oriented you become.
Right. So when you take a very simple life, your thinking is very simple, then for some reason, then I think that you will have more wisdom.
But
more wisdom.
Also at the same time, I think it's important to remember finding your life purpose and living, it doesn't mean you're free from suffering and pain and discomfort.
Very true.
It's really important to remember.
More suffering.
Especially,
a lot of people say that when you have a big life purpose, that actually bigger worries
in the
come to
early
you.
part of my training, I had so much suffering and I was miserable all the time. But it was I guess it was a different kind of misery. It's the kind of suffering that comes from when you're growing.
Which frankly is a really beautiful and satisfying kind of suffering sometimes.
Yeah, as long as you recognize that, you're choosing to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm doing this because that's how I'm opening up and changing and growing. And when you're aware, when you can remember that and remind yourself, then it's okay, so that's why I'm suffering, and that's why it's miserable and stressful, and yet I'm changing. And
so
good.
I would say that is a very good criteria to judge whether you're using your life purpose is, can you handle more stress than you could handle before? Can you work harder than you did before? Because that means that you're connecting with that energy.
Right. So you just have to see where you are now compared to where you were before.
and not just by straining yourself and crunching yourself. Really, can you work harder and still have some joy and still be healthy?
So when you have life purpose, then you will have more suffering.
I think to keep it alive, to keep it growing, you will have bigger and better challenges.
Why do we bother to have life purpose?
So the thing is, assuming that you're gonna have problems in your life anyway, there is nobody in the world who has zero problems.
And there's
in their
no
life,
way
right?
to do less and get less problems. If you do less, you get the same amount of problems, if not more.
Yeah, so you're gonna have problems anyway, and if you're going to have problems anyway, you might as well.
It's just what kind of problems are they?
Are they my tiny trivial problems, or are they actual significant, are they meaningful problems where when I solve the problem...
Are they productive problems? Let's say I'm going to have problems whether I work hard at my job or whether I quit my job and just stay at home. But the problems if I work hard at work are going to lead to a paycheck and maybe some satisfaction. And the problems when I quit my job and stay home are not going to lead to a paycheck.
So basically it's is this thing really worthwhile?
Yeah. Bigger problems, bigger challenges, more suffering, but more joy,
reward.
more satisfaction,
There
more
you go.
fulfillment, more purpose, more confidence and strength, more focus power. I think for a lot of us that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And even from something as simple as just making yourself physically stronger, who hasn't heard no pain, no gain? Everybody knows if you want your body to change and grow and be stronger and better, it's going to be painful and miserable, but you got to push through it.
You got to push through it. And taking it back to the beginning, they found that just exercising is as effective as almost any other treatment for depression. Being active and working hard for something that you are passionate about can be one of the greatest solutions.
By the way, no pain, no gain?
Yeah.
Is it no pain, no gain, or no pains, no gains?
No pain.
No pain, no gain.
We don't count our, pain is not counting a word.
It's just no pain, no gain.
I knew that, yes.
You knew that.
Right.
You're just testing us?
Just testing.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate the challenge.
Right.
I mean, we can go from there to what? Pain never felt so good. Hurts so good.
And many other things. We're not masochists. We just appreciate a good challenge.
There you go. Challenge accepted.
And on that note, I think we've
Have
talked
we exhausted
ourselves
the
out.
topic?
Okay, right.
Thank you for watching. We hope that you've enjoyed and hopefully gotten some energy from this conversation about life purpose.
What is your life purpose?
Yeah, or if you feel like you're struggling and having trouble finding it, hopefully this will give you the courage to just be open about it and say, hey, I'm having trouble looking for finding my life purpose. Can you help me?
And then take action on whatever you do find and choose. And if you have questions or if you'd like to let us know what you found as your life purpose, please comment below.
And please share this video to anybody who wants to find their life purpose.
And like it.
And subscribe. Anything
Yeah.
else? No, I think we've asked you everything.
Yep, all the
right.
boxes are checked.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.